how to count unique values in a column in Excel, and also how can we count repeated values using multiple criteria. So let's start with the first one. How can we count unique values in a column? So let's take column B as an example. And here I have the order number. However, I could have any different thing: numbers, names, texts, and so on. So order number, I want to see and check if all those numbers are unique. And to do so, I can simply use a formula in Excel to help me. So let me go here all the way to the right, and maybe I can use column I to use the formula that I want to use. That are, in this column, I want to just type in count uniques. Enter. Let me increase the width of this column. Click and hold and drag to the right. Like this. Yeah, that's it. The formula that I can use is equal sign and then count if in Excel. A count if function can help us because it can count only the criteria, only the thing that we are looking for. So let's say I can select the entire range that is going to be column B, and however I only want to count how many times the first number appears in this range. So let's go here back to the formula, count if, double click, 1, 2. The range, the first argument is going to be column B, and I can either click, hold, and drag to select a specific range, or what I can do is I can click on the letter B, and that way I can select the entire range. Comma, my criteria is going to be first, the first number that I have, and I can click on the number, and that's it. Now every time Excel finds this number within my range, it's going to count 1, and then 2, and then 3, and 4, and so on. So let's hit enter. Okay, the result here is 1, and this indicates this number only appears once in the list. Now if I go back here to the formula, and in the bottom right corner of the cell, I can click, hold, and drag to the drag down, because that way I can copy this formula to all the rows. And that's it. And as you guys can see, there is some rows where the result is equal to 3. And this indicates the number in this row appears 3 more times or 2 more times, okay? So there's 3 appearances for this specific number within the range. So what we can do now, we can look up for all the unique values or to the values that repeat 2 times, 3, 4, and so on. Maybe I can select all those columns, click, hold, and drag to the right. And that way I can go to Home tab, and all the way to the right, I can use a tool here that is going to be sort and filter, and filter. That's it. Now I can click in this little button to open up here the filter, and I can choose the options that I want to see. Let's stick with the number 1, and let's get rid of 2 and 3, and then OK. Now I can see only the unique values. But if we filter the number 2, OK, we can see the rows that repeated 2 times, or in this case, specifically the number that appears 2 times. But let me go back here to the filter and clear filter, and that's it. So this is the first thing that I said was going to do. How can we find unique values in Excel? Okay, we already find. This is how we can do it. And let's say you want to copy only the unique values to another sheet. How can you do it? You can simply filter the data with the number 1, that is the formula, and then OK. Now I can select everything, and I can add here a new sheet, sheet number 2. I can go back to the first one, and then I can copy all this data set. And to copy something in Excel, we can use the shortcut key Ctrl+C. And then to paste, we can use Ctrl+V. So let's go and Ctrl+C. Now let me go here to sheet number 2. Click in cell A1. Ctrl+V to paste. That's it, guys. So this is how we can basically copy and paste. Now we have only the unique results. And if I go back to my first sheet, I can clear the filter. I can press escape. And now what we can do is, how can I find repeated values, however, using multiple criteria? What I mean by that is, Here we have some rows that are being repeated, such as 7 and 8. As we can see, the numbers are equal to each other. However, let's say, okay, the numbers are equal, and what about the customer? What about the quantity? What about the product? And so on. So we can check all the other columns to make sure everything is equal to each other. And the way we can know for sure 100% that this row is actually being repeated. So we can consider many columns as criteria, multiple criteria. Because let's say we have here two numbers that are equal. However, the customer, of course, is equal, but the quantity and the product are different. So let's say quantity is equal to 1, and product is going to be protein powder. Of course, those are different products and in the same order number. So maybe, of course, the order number is being repeated. However, I don't need to worry about this row because there are two items in the same order number for the same customer. So it's correct. It's indeed can happen. So we need to make sure we can check multiple criteria in a situation like that. So how can we do it? How can we check multiple criteria to make sure the values, the names, the text, the data is being repeated? So let me undo the changes. Control Z again. Okay, everything now is back to normal. And in this column I, I'm going to get rid of this column. So click, right click, delete. Now again, in this column I, I'm going to increase the width. And here I want to count the repeated values, however, using multiple criteria. And to do it, we can use first the equal sign, and then we can select the first cell that we have, that is going to be the date. But why is that? Because we're going to couple together all the cells in the first row, and then in the second, and then in the third, and so on. And instead of consider individual cells, because we coupled the cells, we can consider this formula and check if there is any other cells that are equal to the first one and the second one and so on. So first cell, and then to couple with other cells, I can use here ampersand, that is this symbol right here, and I can go to the second cell, and then ampersand again, the third, the fourth, and so on. So you just need to select the cell, ampersand, and then other cell, and ampersand, and so on. So that's it. I coupled here together all the cells, and then enter. As we can notice, we're going to have a very large result, but doesn't matter, it's right. Now I can click on the cell in the bottom right corner, click, hold, and drag down, and that way I can copy this formula to all the rows. Now instead of using the column B, or E, or C as a criteria, what we can do is we can consider all the columns as a criteria at the same time at once. And to do it, we can simply use column I as a criteria. So now in column J, the column to the right, we can count those values. Equal sign, count if, double click 1, 2. The range now is going to be the column I, where I have the combination of all the columns, chroma, and my criteria is going to be the value to the left. I want to check how many times this value to the left appears in my range. So enter only one time. Let me click at the bottom right corner of the cell, click, hold, and drag down to make sure I can copy this formula to all the rows. And yeah, we can see there's some number 2s, maybe a number 3, but that's it. And as we can notice right here, we have number 2 in the row number 7 and 8. However, if I change the product item 1, 2, 3, enter, as we can notice to the right, now the value is back to 1 because there is no repetition anymore, because we have a difference within a cell. Here we are considering all the columns. However, you can, of course, specify which cells, which columns you need to use. Okay, so this is how we can do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to count, find repeated values in Excel, and also how to find unique values using multiple criteria. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you in the next one.